Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review of the latest episode of The Wheel of Time, The Dragon Reborn. And I really fucking love this episode. I... They just delved into a lot of cool stuff that was going on and really got interesting and deep into the kind of lore, even though it wasn't shouting everything kind of everywhere. It just really did a good job. I'm like, oh right, yes. So the best kind of part also happened in the beginning, because we see that it doesn't get healed in, and that Logain is trying to take down this city, and that we see that the king is trying to run off because they have pretty much been able to breach the gates and are coming, and they kind of he's able to kind of buck off when two are left to kind of guard, and we see Logain pop up. And this is a really cool and effective way to showcase the male side of channeling, because we've seen the female Aes Sedai doing their kind of stuff and what that kind of entails. And this was important because it's really kind of cool to showcase the actual taint that the male half of the one power has. And I was wondering how they were going to kind of do that, because we see Logain and he's like, screw you guys. And we see him start to do weaves, and they at first look like the same on the females. But then we see this darkness come into it as he's able to kind of pierce them with these kind of barbs, and that he kind of shoots at them. And it's really kind of cool. I'm like, oh, this is interesting to show this. And then he's able to come up to the king and kind of stop him, and he's calling him mad and everything. And we see the actual madness as the weaves are made out of it, out of the blackness, trying to get him to kill this person. And that is kind of different than we see in the first episode, where that other male channeler was seeing a very distinct other person with him. Now, the differences in effect could be that Logain is actually being affected madness-wise by the taint of having loved ones talked with him, where the other person could have had a past or previous life version trying to kind of talk with him and kind of mess with him. So those are the kind of differences that could be. I don't know. That is important because of what kind of happens with the Dragon Reborn if they follow what's going on with the Dragon Reborn. So he's there and he's like, screw you, man, you're just gonna break the world and everything. He's like, I don't want to break the world. There's place at my side for even my enemies. And his objective is to bind the world. And it's like, wow, Logain's saying some interesting stuff and some interesting things, because he wants to help the world. Now granted, the way that male channelers are treated ain't really good. And he thinks with his power, he is the Dragon Reborn, and he's like, the dragon can either save the world or destroy it, and I want to try and save it. I want to bind it. Now, binding it is a very interesting kind of phrase to do, because it can be used to help and heal things and stitch everything back together, but it also can be used as a kind of control thing, bind them to your will and stuff, and it's got that kind of negative connotation, but also works within the whole weaving, threads, wheels, and all that kind of stuff kind of language, and I really kind of liked that. I'm like, ooh, interesting. And I'm just like, man, they're really doing a good job with just this small effective things with, well, it's pretty big, yes, but you're getting so much from Logain and the male half of the one power, and what the taint is with this, with just this effective first scene. I'm like, wow, goddamn, that's a great way to start it off. Now, then the episode kind of juggles itself between Nynaeve and Lan and Moraine at the Aes Sedai camp, Egwene and Perrin at the Tinkers, and Rand, Matt, and Tom at their kind of road traveling. And since the Aes Sedai camp pretty much takes up the bulk, I'm going to save that for last and deal with the others in kind of their own kind of order. So Egwene and Perrin are pretty much with the Tinkers and kind of learning more of their way of life. We see Egwene dancing with Aram, and pretty much learning like there's this song that will be peaceful and everything, and that they potentially knew it before, and they're just trying to rediscover it again. And she's like, interesting. Perrin is showing kind of some distrust about the Tinkers, not quite sure what they are. That's kind of lining up with the book as well, so we'll kind of see how he does with that. But he does talk with like the matriarch of it. God, I can't remember her name, but he's trying to figure out the whole thing. She's talking about how they're pacifists and that they won't employ violence. And granted, I understand that kind of way of thinking since I've gotten older. If you don't need to like fight someone or whatnot, it's best to take the path that does not include that. However, running away and trying to like get away from certain things is not always the best course of action either. Granted, sometimes you are going to have to step into something to try and effectively stop someone, but it doesn't always have to end violently or in a death. But it's kind of cool to get their whole kind of philosophy as well, because she's talking about how her daughter was killed by bandits, and since she didn't have any kind of valuables on them, they killed her, and she wanted to take the spear for vengeance and go after him, but then she thought the best vengeance would be to make a peaceful world, so that way no matter how far in the future the wheel spins out her daughter's soul again, she wouldn't have to worry about that. And that's a long-term view that's really nice and really works into showing a different kind of aspect of the reincarnation, of how people view that kind of thing in this universe. And then she asks, since Perrin has taken up an axe or sword or whatever, if his life has been better. Granted, I do like Perrin ruminating on these kinds of things. However, he was getting attacked by something that was going to kill him, eat him, and probably do untold violence upon others, and that he was in that kind of battle mode and he didn't know what was going on. So the thing is, he needs to talk to somebody about that. Like a soldier, a warder, someone that has been in those kind of battles and instances and has experienced that kind of PTSD before, so that way he can kind of work through it. It'll be interesting to see kind of how that kind of works out there. So that's kind of mainly the bulk, as they are heading to Tarvalon, the White Tower, where the Aes Sedai are based. So they'll probably get there pretty quickly or whatnot. Then let's shift over to Rand, Mat, and Tom. We see them pretty much like riding through the woods. Rand is suspicious of Tom and is trying to figure out what his end game is, because he's really kind of weird for Gleeman being able to do this kind of stuff. And Mat is actually pretty much trying to fight for him, but he's actually really impressed that Rand is able to have that kind of level of caution. He's like, there's maybe some hope for you yet. And then they get to this kind of farm, and they're like, all right, we'll just sneak into the barn and kind of see what's going on, and just like sneak into the barn, sleep for the night, will be good, because they're trying to outrun a fate. But the owner of the farm's like, what are you doing here? And Tom and Mat are going to try and bullshit their way out of this, but Rand's like, listen, we're sorry. Since he knows how to handle a bow, he knows if you were going to try and kill us, you wouldn't be using your fists like that on it. If you would just let us sleep for the night in your barn, we won't cause you any trouble or anything like that. And he's able to effectively communicate with them and be like, all right, cool. He's like, hey. And then we see like his daughter and his wife come out. But now he's like, yeah, we got room. As soon as you muck them out, it's like, that's cool. We got this. And we see that Rand's mainly doing the work, but Mat is feeling off. Now, Tom puts up a different kind of theory at this point of why Mat is feeling the way he is, but those who are more into the book and everything will know that it's not the reason Tom suspects, because we even see things in this section that don't line up with his thing. We see that Mat kind of goes off, kind of gets sick and everything, and that the daughter comes out and says, "Hey, Mama said that give this to you guys," and yeah, and then kind of leaving. It's like, well, why aren't you? It's like, I don't know. And he's like, of course. And it's really kind of weird because I can identify with different kind of aspects of these characters, but with Matt, I can really identify with it because I'm a brother, got a sister. He's a brother that takes care of his sisters, and this is a little girl that kind of reminds him. And he's like, I got to get back to my sisters, and I got to help them out and everything. And she's like, well, you can take this to him, Brigitte. And of course, she is a. There is a legend about this character that'll be brought up, but it's kind of cool to see these kind of things seeded this early on in here because she becomes actually important throughout what's going on. And he's like, I can't take that, but she wants to see the world and everything. And he's like, all right, cool. And that's when we kind of shift over and we see that Rand, and he's like, what's going on, man? He's like, listen, I think Matt can channel the one power and that he's going mad. This kind of lines up with his nephew, Owen, who it started happening. He started getting moody, saying weird things, and at one point threw a rock without throwing a rock. Threw it with his mind. And of course the Aes Sedai got involved. They gentled him, and he was never the same. And then one day, he had finished eating his meal, and then slit his own throat. And he's like, because he was away, he couldn't protect him from the Aes Sedai, and he always feels for that. And it's really good, because it seemed a lot longer of an explanation in the book, but they're able to do it so effectively with a lot of power because the actor is able to do it so well, and you just really feel for it, and it's like, yeah. And that's important because it's also going around the time that we are seeing how Aes Sedai deal with a male channeler in the camp with Logain. And he's like, all right, we gotta keep an eye on him because this could go pretty bad. Well, they then go to sleep, and we see that something starts kicking up. Rand actually has a dream about, like, Egwene being, like, captured by Baalzamon. And I'm like, holy shit, fuck. But then he's waking up and shit's going down, and you can understand why as they start looking around. They see, what the fuck's going on? They go inside the house, and they see the family killed, and they see Matt with the dagger from Shadar Logoth and Mashadar coming out of his mouth. It's like that kind of weird, crazy shit. It's like, that ain't good, bro. And he's like, I can see you. And we see that it is a fade that killed them all. We even see the little girl and the doll laying on the ground as well. But we see that Tom is able to fend off the fade, which is a feat because the fade is analogous to kind of like a ring wraith. Right? They are... to be able to even hold one off is a feat that is worthy of a Glee man. And also, it was interesting because Tom also delved into why they're called Glee men, because it's easier to kind of like do their kind of job when you've got kind of like a silly name, so nobody will take you seriously. Nobody's going to think that the bard's going to be able to like toss daggers and like kick ass, because they're thinking, I'm going to throw my shit. I'm get drunk on shit. Bang, bang, banging and bang. I'm a bard and I'm singing and I'm getting laid. Yeah. Kind of. But Tom busts and start doing some crazy ass shit. I like this action sequence because they're doing good work in this show with that shit. Because it's clear, even though chaos is fucking going on. I know that sounds weird. But see, even if it's a chaotic battle scene, which we do get later on in this episode, it needs to be clear enough that crazy ass shit's going on. Like, it can be chaotic with one of the characters involved, and then you can go in and it's like, what the fuck's going on? But you gotta be clear enough to go out to be like, okay, I understand what's going on here, here, and here. So, Rand and Matt book it because Tom's like, the fuck out. Go! And they go and they ride off, and that's kind of where it's ended off, that Tom is fighting this fate in this house, and they're off to parts nowhere. No, we know not yet. Alright, that's the little parts. Now let's get to the bulk. We pretty much see kind of how the power dynamics work here. We see that Moraine gets healed by Karene of the green Aja. They're the battle Aja, and the yellow is usually more dedicated to healing. The thing is, any kind of Aes Sedai can heal, but like they specialize in it. You know what I mean? And Moraine thanks her. It's like, wow, I didn't think that would take that much out of you. It's like, yeah, but I'm kind of also doing some other stuff. And then we get kind of more technical kind of things about what it means to shield and pretty much keep captive another channeler. As we see that two Aes Sedai have to be on Logain at all points, usually Leandrin, Karene, we got this, I think, Alana, other Green Naja lady, and Moraine decides to also take it, and we see that she does her weave of the shield, plugging his ears with air, and that he's really strong. And this puts into Moraine's head that could be the Dragon Reborn, because that's pretty much her whole goal. Never mind that the Taviran were in Emond's Field and the Two Rivers. She's got to explore every kind of avenue to make certain. Let's see. So she gets introduced with that. We get kind of more character introduction with Leandrin, who pretty much wants to gentle Logain right now because of the work it would take to kind of get him to the White Tower to be tried. Karene doesn't want that shit to be going down, and she calls Leandrin out for that, being like, that's your job to call us out for that shit. Why am I calling you out for it? We also see that Nynaeve pretty much stays away from the camp because she's still distrustful of the Aes Sedai because of her history with them. We see Leandrin pop up and essentially do the usual kind of snake kind of moves, mispronouncing her name on purpose, pretty much to get that kind of stuff. She talks to him and says, "Hey, yeah, any woman's welcome in here, welcome into the camp." And it's like, yeah. She's like, not the minute she's gone, Nynaeve's like, that woman's a snake. I'm like, come on, Nynaeve, yes. And it's really kind of cool because we get nice kind of character moments setting up for the kind of relationship that her and Lan will kind of have going forward. And he's like, yeah, don't worry, you're welcome into the camp as well. Let's see. I might be a little bit out of order in how the rest of these things kind of work out because I've somehow kind of clumped them together more in the kind of how they do certain things rather than the complete sequential order. We see, yes, we won't get to the Malkir bit until a little bit later, but she comes down, she's kind of seeing what's going on, gets kind of more introduced into the kind of warder kind of stuff. We see Lan having a fight with, a sparring kind of thing going on with, Alana. Wait, is it Alana? No, Karene's warder. And they're just kind of shitting with each other. It's really kind of cool to see how the warders are able to kind of do their own kind of thing. And they're like, yes, they're bonded with their Aes Sedai, but to see kind of what goes on. We see Lan and the other warders kind of like fucking around a fire, just kind of being like, yeah, we can do all this kind of stuff. The Greens usually have more warders, well, as a battle Aja, and pretty much as DPS. Granted, yes, I can talk in I talk in different kind of terms, but essentially the battle Aja, they would be your long range spellcasters and the ones effectively doing shit in battle, and you would need as much protection as possible with that. So having vanguards and pretty much multiple warders does work out to like help protect you and make sure you can do all the weaves that you can. Blue Aja, they tend to be more kind of spycraft and diplomatic, so it makes sense that they wouldn't have a giant retinue with them because it hampers their effectiveness. And then with the red Aja and their penchant for being, let me be generous here, less inclined to be friendly with the male segment of the population. They usually aren't that much with the warriors. Yeah, no. So it's why you'd see like Leandrin kind of do like whatever. Alright, let's see. So we see Nynaeve kind of learning what warders kind of do, if they kind of go to bed with their Aes Sedai. We see that Lan goes to Moraine and is like, you get kind of more emotional when I drink. I'm sorry about that. And we see her taking off shifts and everything like that going on. Let's see here. We see that, here we go. They're trying everything to work and make sure Logain is captured and secure. But we see that Nynaeve goes out. We see that Lan is offering a prayer to Malkir with the towers. And she's trying to figure out what's going on with that. And she actually has a prayer that she says, even though she doesn't know anything of the old tongue. And Lan's able to translate it for her. And it's about, like, protecting children and all that. Like her parents said it. It's like, damn. And Lan's like, you're not like how I expected at first. And she's like, you neither. But then we see that the Logain's army, contrary to Liandrin's musings, has decided, yeah, we kind of want our dude back. So they start to attack. And we get this giant action sequence that works very well with vast uses of the one power and seeing the warders doing their kind of thing. Nynaeve's like, what the fuck's going on? Has her knife, like, I don't know what's going on. And this works very well because we see a lot of different kind of things. Now, granted, you can only do so much, but I think they're pretty effective in using the one power in different kind of ways. Like dirt explosions, throwing shit everywhere, stopping arrows and redirecting them and everything. We see also the King of Gihildan is part of this retinue to help free Logain. Well, we see that, let me see. They did get it to, like, 2 shifts. Karene and Liandrin were the ones on Logain, and Logain's able to, like, burst out. And the thing is, it's important to understand that female channelers cannot see male channelers' weaves, and vice versa. So it's really kind of freaky because they can't see what he's doing and he can't see what they're doing. So the thing is, we as the audience have to understand that. Okay, that hasn't been effectively communicated because we as the audience, outside of the Wheel of Time, have to see these things to understand what each character is doing. So we see that he's able to, like, blast off the shields, get out, kind of lock Liandrin and Karene out, as Alana is kind of like doing her thing and trying to hold off the armies and all that. And we see the warders doing kick-ass shit. But Logain is, like, on his own kind of thing. We see that Moraine pops up and starts questioning him why he thinks he's the Dragon Reborn. And she knows that he's got a lot of power, but his will be a pinprick compared to the sun that is the Dragon Reborn. And she then tries to move to more of an offensive kind of thing because Karene starts waking up and they're trying to kind of, like, shield themselves and try and get Logain back under control, but he's able to use his weaves. And the thing is, Karene kind of, like, saves Moraine and Liandrin, but it takes out Karene. That's when the kind of rest of the group kind of comes in, and the warder that was Karene's, they're trying to get him under control. He's pretty much almost shielded, but he sees his fallen Aes Sedai, goes nuts, because it's kind of almost similar to being gentled. I say similar, it's just you've lost this person that you're connected to. It is a connection. And he goes and he tries to pretty much kill him with his axes, but this gives him enough that he's able to, like, use his weaves on it and make an explosion that, like, blasts and, like, pretty much almost kills everyone instantly. They're wounded horrendously. And Nynaeve's there, and she's like, shit, because Lan's throat is cut. He's bleeding out, and in a stunning display of the one power, she's able to heal everybody in the vicinity with a giant kind of burst of the one power. And Nynaeve is powerful, like, even in the book. So this isn't some kind of, like, out of nowhere left field kind of thing, or just, like, incorrect power scaling. It also helps to misdirect where Logan's like, wow, and the Dragon Reborn will be like the sun. This is kind of like the keep us off track and whatnot. Now, granted, I don't mind it. It helps with the mystery kind of factor and keep characters and the audience guessing and engaged. So it's like, all right, cool. And the thing is, you're like, God damn. Now, if anything, I would just be like that the pacing to get to this point, to the showing of her power, is the only kind of problem I have with, because even though we've seen her dealing with Lan over these past couple episodes, we kind of need a little bit more to like justify her kind of reaction of like, shit, I'm just getting to know this dude, and she's like, I want to heal him. Now granted, heal him, yes, I can get that kind of part, and we're going to need a little bit more work to get to other kind of developments later on, so hopefully they are able to give more room to kind of like breathe to that, because the thing is, I don't want it to be like 14 years of like 22 episodes a season. That you could get pretty long, but I also think that 8 episodes is a little bit too short, and that it's going to lead to some more pacing problems, but that's kind of my only thing. Like, you'd be like, why is she like reacting to this with this going on this way? And I'm like, yeah, I kind of have it there, even though I like seeing her use the one power finally and have that kind of brought into the field and what that'll kind of mean for her going on. Well, Logan's like, holy fucking shit, and then Leandrin's like, sisters, link with me, and of course she takes it on herself to then gentle Logan, and actually seeing this in action was really kind of interesting. Now, Logan is now cut off from the one power. That does not mean he does not factor into other events going forward. Now, we do have an understanding of what it means to be gentled, but we'll kind of see how that goes later on. Now, granted, I've read it and everything, so he does factor in heavily in a lot of different things, so can't wait to kind of see that. But that's kind of where it ends with Logan. We see the power kind of leaving from him and how he's like just gone, almost. Like, not gone, but even though he factored in very heavily in this episode, and we've only seen him here, we do see this stark contrast between him with the one power and him without, even though it's just for a little bit. So we'll kind of see how that kind of works out and what they're able to kind of shuffle around. We do see that a lot of his forces were pretty much taken out during this battle, so we'll see if any kind of remnants kind of work on and how that kind of works out. But being attacked like this pretty much proved the best opportunity for Leandrin to do this, even though all the protocol dictated that she should have just shielded him better and done some kind of weave to potentially have him asleep for vast periods of time to piggyback him to the White Tower for interrogation and for actual trial. So we'll have to see if she actually suffers different kind of repercussions and how that'll kind of work out. So even though I know things, I like seeing how this is kind of changed up. They're not horrendous changes for the most part. They're interesting changes to see kind of what goes on. My biggest kind of concern is always going to be the pacing and the amount of episodes, because there's a lot of stuff that is pretty cool and you have to kind of work around to kind of adapt. Not that it's unadaptable, it's just, and there are a lot of weird things that you can pretty much either drop off or heavily condense to get it into a pretty good thing. But do it for the story. Don't just pick a weird number and be like, hey, it's smaller, just let's do this shit. So hopefully it works to the advantage of the story, and I am intrigued now that we are halfway through this, how this will end. So yeah, those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.